Dogman Declassified, the latest book from W.J. Brendel, Ph.D. Real reports. Consistent patterns, no clear answers. Take a closer look at the evidence. Available now.
Welcome to Forever Paranormal, where shadows remember and silence has a way of speaking. I'm Dr. Bill, your guide through the strange and the unexplainable.
And I'm Deb. Every week we dig into what hides between belief and proof. Cryptids, hauntings, witchcraft, UFO sightings, and the stories people swear are true.
We don't tell you what to believe. We just look at what's possible, what's been witnessed, and what refuses to stay quiet.
If you like what we do, follow, rate, and share the show. It helps keep the lights on.
And if you want to go deeper, step inside the crypt. Patreon members get the show ad-free, a full day early, and gain access to our entire archives, years of investigations, bonus episodes, and conversations we don't release anywhere else. You can join at foreverparanormal.com or by searching Forever Paranormal, The Crypt on Patreon.
And remember that you're never alone. If you ever need someone to talk to, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is 988.
There are certain sounds people never fully forget. Movement outside a window at 2 in the morning. Footsteps where no footsteps should be. The feeling that something is circling your house in the dark. In 2007, a family near Palmyra, Maine became convinced they were not alone outside their home. Welcome back to Forever Paranormal, where we know that Teaneck is more than a myth and where the veil is thin. Ghosts walk beside us. Strange craft drift above us, and creatures move just out of sight. Every story is a door between worlds, and this week we step through into one of the most unsettling modern Dogman encounter cases ever reported. A case involving isolation, fear, multiple witnesses, and a family who believed something intelligent was moving through their property in the darkness. Well, hello there, Deb.
Hi.
So, what you got for us this week?
Do you remember back in March when there were speculation and debate about the government registering the domain names alien.gov and aliens.gov?
Yeah, I do remember that because actually I did a story on that. Go on.
Well, the truth has come out.
Uh-oh.
Finally, a website did appear on aliens.gov the last week of May, redirecting users to a page on the White House's website. Now, I am sure many UFO enthusiasts were disappointed to suddenly realize the true purpose. The aliens in question are, in fact, illegal immigrants.
Really?
The entire purpose is to promote Trump's immigration policies.
Well, that figures, because I did an article back when they first registered those about, yeah, they're doing this, but that doesn't mean disclosure. Well, yeah, now we know it's not disclosure, and I rarely comment on politics. But it seems like everything this administration does is sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors, look at this, but we're really doing this over here. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem that way.
Yeah, I'm just shaking my head on that one.
Okay, so the intro you gave is making me uncomfortable because a house is supposed to feel safe.
Yeah.
Once something outside changes that feeling, everything changes.
Yeah, I really can't agree more. And actually, this one was something that I came across while I was researching for my latest book, Dogman Declassified. And the deeper I got into witness reports and regional cases, the more this particular incident kept surfacing because of how unsettling it was. Well, by the way, in case you're wondering, Dogman Declassified is now available on Amazon and wjbrendel.com. I didn't include this one in the book, but what caught my attention about this one wasn't the creature descriptions. It was the escalation. The sense that the fear built over time until the family could no longer felt alone on their own property. And before we go further, I want to be careful with this case because I really think that matters. There is no confirmed scientific evidence proving Dogman exists. No verified species, there's no body, there's no universal accepted proof. But, like a lot of other things, what does exist are witness reports. And not all witnesses can be wrong. And that's where this conversation gets uncomfortable for some people because not all of these witnesses fit the stereotype critics usually imagine, right? So over the years, reports have come from hunters, police officers, military personnel, correction officers, nurses, truck drivers, business owners, all kinds of people, and people who otherwise appeared psychologically stable and had no obvious reason to invent encounters that often brought ridicule to their own lives. Now, that alone does not prove Dogman exists, but credible people can still misinterpret events. Fear can distort perception, and we know darkness changes depth, scale, and movement, and we know memory is not perfect. But at the same time, dismissing every witness automatically becomes harder once you realize some of these individuals spent their entire professional lives trained to observe details. They remain calm under pressure and distinguish ordinary situations from dangerous ones. And that leaves us in an uncomfortable middle ground. Not proof, but not something easily brushed aside either. Some cases are isolated. Some involve multiple people. And some, like this one, involves repeated activity over a period of time. According to the reports, the event centered around the Martin family in Palmyra, Maine. Eric and Shelley Martin, along with their daughter Chelsea, allegedly experienced escalating activity around their rural property during the mid-2000s. The family claimed the activity began with strange environmental changes, like unusual silence in the woods, strange lights, large tracks reportedly measuring close to a foot across. That's a big track, right? But according to the witnesses, things eventually escalated far beyond strange sounds in the darkness. The Martins alleged they became the targets of repeated activity involving multiple large wolf-like creatures moving around the property at night. Not one creature, but reportedly anywhere from 5 to 8. Movement near the woods, pacing, shapes appearing briefly near the tree line at night. According to the family, the activity allegedly became stranger before it became aggressive. They said the woods around the property would reportedly go completely silent at times. No insects, no animal sounds, just stillness. And the family also claimed strange lights were occasionally seen near the tree line and around parts of the property late at night. Then, there were the tracks. Large impressions reportedly found near the farmhouse that some descriptions claim measured close to a foot across. The feeling that something was intentionally remaining just outside clear visibility, man, that just kind of makes me shake now.
Especially at night because your brain starts tracking every sound once you get nervous enough.
Yeah, and with your hearing, I mean every sound. You're exactly right on that. According to the accounts, though, the family eventually became convinced something large was moving around the property repeatedly at night. Not once, not a quick sighting on the roadside like you hear about, but repeated activity. And then came the detail that pushed the case into something much stranger. The witnesses allegedly began believing there was more than one creature outside.
I think the level of fear changes once people start believing there's more than one thing out there.
Yeah, it does, because now the situation stops feeling accidental, right? One strange animal passing through your property is unsettling enough. Like when that big black bear, remember that big black bear was on our front porch that time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but multiple large creatures moving around in darkness begins feeling coordinated. even if there may ultimately be a normal explanation for what the people experienced. And according to the reports surrounding this case, the family started noticing patterns. Not just sounds, but patterns. They had a lot of movement near the tree line and pacing behavior. They had eyes reflecting light from different positions. The sense that whatever was outside seemed aware of the house and aware of them. That's a detail that shows up in a surprising number of these kind of reports. Witnesses often describe feeling watched before they ever fully see anything. Now, skeptically speaking, fear itself can absolutely heighten that sensation. Because once adrenaline kicks in, the human brain starts scanning for threat constantly. I mean, every shadow matters. Every sound matters. Your nervous system shifts into survival mode. It's in high gear. But even acknowledging that, right, some witnesses insist there came a point where they no longer felt they were imagining things at all. According to the story, members of the family allegedly began seeing large, upright figures near the woods surrounding the property. Tall, broad-shouldered, bipedal, moving in ways that did not associate with normal wildlife. And one thing that repeatedly appears in these reports is hesitation from the witnesses themselves. I mean, there was no excitement. There was not, hey, we found a monster. There was confusion. I mean, people trying to force what they're seeing into a normal category first, like maybe a bear or a dog or even a coyote, maybe even somebody trespassing. That's usually where the mind goes initially because the alternative, well, just feels absurd.
Well, most people don't immediately jump to, I saw a cryptid.
Yeah, you're right on the nose with that one, Devin. I actually think there would be very few people who would jump to that. Most people resist that conclusion pretty hard. And that's part of what makes cases like this interesting to me, because whether someone believes in Dogman or not, the witnesses themselves often sound pretty uncomfortable with their own conclusions. And according to the reports, the activity around the property allegedly intensified over time. The creatures were no longer just glimpsed at a distance. The family believed they were getting closer to the house itself, closer to the windows, closer to the edge of the yard, sometimes pacing just beyond visible range in the darkness. And once that happens, sleep starts disappearing because people begin listening instead of resting. Every noise pulls attention. Every silence feels loaded. That kind of prolonged fear changes people mentally and emotionally very quickly.
If you've missed an episode or want to hear them all, step inside the crypt. It's where every past episode of 4 Ever Paranormal lives, along with exclusive bonus shows you won't hear anywhere else. Join us at foreverparanormal.com and unlock the archives.
Living in fear is exhausting. After enough nights of it, your body never fully relaxes, and I don't think you ever get it back.
Yeah, you're right. And you lose a lot of sleep, and prolonged fear does change the way people interact with their environment, right? You stop casually walking outside after dark. You start checking windows repeatedly. You listen before opening doors. You begin mentally mapping where sounds are coming from without even realizing you're doing it. And according to the reports tied to this case, the family allegedly reached a point where they believed the creatures were intentionally staying near the property. Not just wandering through, not just hunting like they normally would, they were watching. Now again, we have to be careful here because this is where interpretation becomes difficult. People are pattern seeking by nature. Once fear establishes itself, the brain starts connecting events automatically. But even saying that, some details from the case are difficult to completely dismiss because it was something emotional. Witnesses allegedly described the creatures moving upright at times. Oh man, right? Large canine-shaped figures appeared briefly near the woods before disappearing again in the darkness. And one of the recurring details was the eyes. That comes constantly in Dogman reports. Reflective eyes. Low, glowing appearances from light exposure. The sense that something is staring back from just outside your visibility.
When people hear glowing eyes, they instantly roll their eyes. I know I do. But regular animals' eyes do reflect light at night.
You're absolutely correct, Deb. I mean, you got things like coyotes, dogs, deer, and even bears, right? What witnesses usually claim disturbed them was not simply eyeshine, it was the height and spacing of the eyes, the movement, or the behavior associated with it. And this is where the story reportedly became far more intense, because the witnesses allegedly began realizing the movement wasn't always happening from one direction. Sometimes sounds would come from the woods, then from another side of the property, then near the house itself, almost like multiple things were repositioning around them.
Well, that's the moment where I would leave. I don't care what it is at that point.
Well, I have to say, Deb, that type of reaction just proves you're human, so I can't blame you for that. I mean, people love talking about cryptids until they imagine themselves actually trapped in that situation at 2 or 3 in the morning with no clear explanation for what's outside. That's very different psychologically than watching a documentary from your couch, especially in isolated areas where law enforcement may be far away, neighbors aren't nearby, and darkness limits what you can even confirm visually. According to the reports, by this stage, the family no longer believed they were dealing with random noises in the woods. They believed something was actively surrounding the property. And according to later retellings of the incident, this was when the situation allegedly escalated into a direct siege of the farmhouse itself. The family claimed that creatures were no longer staying near the tree line. They reportedly approached the house. I mean, the Martins later described hearing scratching at the door, movement outside the windows, heavy sounds moving around the structure at night. Some accounts claim the creatures appeared to peer into the farmhouse from outside the windows while circling the property repeatedly. Then came the roof activity. According to the witnesses, something large was allegedly moving across the roof of the farmhouse during the night, loud enough that the family reportedly barricaded themselves inside of it out of fear.
I guess once you've barricaded yourself inside your own house while something is moving across the roof, it stops feeling like a weird animal sighting.
Yeah, and well, we as people are extremely sensitive to movement patterns. We subconsciously recognize when something doesn't fit expected behavior. I guess that's why people become unnerved by things like mannequins or masks or even certain AI-generated faces sometimes. The brain notices when something sits close to normal, but not quite fully inside it. Then, according to the witnesses, that uncanny feeling allegedly became extremely overwhelming. The family reportedly started avoiding going outside at night altogether. Lights stayed on. Attention stayed fixed toward the woods. Sleep, as we can imagine, became inconsistent. And eventually, according to the story, the situation escalated into the direct confrontation. Now again, I want to separate confirmed fact from reported testimony here because that matters. What comes next exists entirely in witness accounts and later retellings surrounding the incident. But according to those reports, family members allegedly began seeing multiple creatures much closer to the home itself than before. Always seeing them near the yard, near the structures on the property, sometimes pacing within visible range. And once witnesses believe something is intentionally approaching the house repeatedly, the emotional atmosphere changes completely. Because at that point, the fear stops being, what did we see? And it becomes, what does it want?
It seems like enough to keep somebody awake all night.
Yeah.
Because if you think something is intentionally approaching your house repeatedly, your mind immediately starts trying to predict what happens next.
Yeah, but that one thing people sometimes forget is that isolation magnifies uncertainty too. In a city, strange noises usually get absorbed into the background life, like cars, sirens, neighbors, lights. But in rural environments, unusual sounds, they pretty much stand out immediately because there's so little competing noise to go around. You hear that and you're like, what was that? According to the reports, the family allegedly reached a point where normal routine started collapsing. Nights became centered around listening and watching, waiting for movement outside again. And that really changes people, not just emotionally, but physically. But even then, the witnesses maintained they were observing actual external activity around the property. And to me, that's where the case remains interesting.
Even if you believe there is a normal explanation, that doesn't mean the fear isn't real and it doesn't make it go away.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I know firsthand fear does not require a supernatural explanation to become psychologically devastating. If a family generally believed large predators were circling their property at night, well, the emotional impact would be very real regardless of what was actually outside. And according to the reports surrounding this case, things allegedly escalated to the point where some family members believed the creatures were testing boundaries, appearing briefly, backing away, reappearing elsewhere, almost probing and looking for a reaction from the family. Now, whether that interpretation was accurate or fear driven is really impossible to know. But it's part of what made the story spread so widely afterward because listeners immediately imagined themselves in that situation. I mean, there's usually an emotional tone of threat surrounding them, yeah, but witnesses often describe not just surprise, but the sense that something dangerous was aware of them personally.
Maybe that's why these stories stick with people. Predators trigger something ancient in us.
Yeah, fear. I mean, we as humans evolved under predation pressure for thousands of years. Our nervous systems are extremely reactive to things associated with stalking behavior, eye contact in darkness, pursuit patterns, and even being surrounded. And whether Dogman exists or not, stories like this activate those instincts immediately. So I think that's why listeners can feel uncomfortable even hearing the cases discussed. According to the reports, one of the most unsettling elements was the belief that there wasn't just one creature moving around the property. I mean, witnesses allegedly described movement from different locations almost simultaneously. And psychologically, that changes everything. One unknown animal maybe can be confronted. A coordinated group, well, it becomes something else entirely.
I would imagine that's where panic really starts setting in because now escape starts feeling uncertain too.
Exactly. And once people begin feeling trapped, rational thinking starts deteriorating pretty fast. The house no longer feels protective. The woods no longer feel passive. And darkness itself really starts feeling occupied because you think something's out there. And honestly, whether somebody believes this involved cryptids, misidentified wildlife, heightened fear responses, or something stranger, I think the emotional reality of the witnesses is the part worth paying attention to. Because people don't usually carry these experiences for years because they saw something weird. They carry them because for a period of time, they genuinely believed they were vulnerable to something that they could neither identify nor control.
And that may be scarier than the creature itself.
Yeah, Deb, I think you're right because the center of a lot of these cases is not just the fear of monsters, it's also the fear of uncertainty. The realization that in darkness, isolation, and stress, human beings may not always understand what they're experiencing in the moment. And sometimes the hardest thing to live with afterward is not knowing whether the threat was real, psychological, environmental, or something sitting somewhere in between. And that's why cases like the Palmyra incident continue circulating years after. Not because they've been proven, but because they leave just enough uncertainty behind to keep the questions alive. Well, at least until next time, when we discuss another tale yet to be told. Thanks for listening to Forever Paranormal. Follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find us and keeps the stories coming. Step inside the crypt for archive and exclusive episodes at foreverparanormal.com. And keep up with my latest books and research at wjbrendel.com. And until next time, remember, the bell is always thinner than you think.